Well, earlier today, I spoke with Prime host J.D. Hayworth about his exclusive interview with presidential hopeful John Kasich. Here's a portion of that interview. J.D., thanks for stopping by again. Interesting stuff with John Kasich. Each night this week here on Newsmax TV at 8 p.m., we're featuring portions of your very in-depth sit-down interview with the governor of Ohio. That discussion includes the immigration debate and John Kasich's comments on this issue of birthright citizenship. Let's take a listen.
That should be just off the table. We're not going to go changing the Constitution, and if you're here, you're here.
Section 5 says it can be changed by appropriate legislation.
I think we have enough to have to deal with other than to throw a monkey wrench in there and then debate all that. Let's just get the basics done here.
Well, you know, John has been a good friend of mine, and this is not just political talk.
Right.
Really, I enjoyed serving with him 2 decades ago in the House. I thought he was an outstanding Budget Committee chairman. But you can see why a lot of people are saying this guy will be the establishment candidate whose name is not Bush.
Sure. To those folks who say, you know what, John Kasich isn't conservative enough, a lot of times I will tell those folks, well, who would you rather have be president? Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Martin O'Malley, maybe Bernie Sanders? I know there's some concerns about running a more moderate candidate this time, but he does have that crossover appeal based on his success in Ohio.
Well, it is that success in Ohio and what we talked about the other night, the fact that he is a native of McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania, and then moved to Ohio to go to school at Ohio State, and he represented Ohio for so many years, first in the state legislature and then, of course, in the House of Representatives, a few years back off in the private sector, and then now as governor of that state. So you take a look at Pennsylvania and Ohio. No Republican has won the White House without Ohio. And so when you think of it that way in terms of the electoral map, you go, gee, if he is not able to win the top job, I think whomever will be the nominee would give very strong consideration to making Governor Kasich perhaps Vice President Kasich.
All right, well, tune in tonight. More of that interview coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax Prime right here on Newsmax TV. J.D., thanks.
Thank you.
And we want to bring in and invite to Newsmax Now political analyst Dick Morris. Dick, is John Kasich the best position, geographically speaking, to win the White House?
Well, he certainly would be helpful in Ohio, but let's put it into some perspective. If the Republican candidate runs half a point better in Florida than Romney does, he's going to carry Florida. And if he runs a point and a half better than Romney did in Ohio, he's going to carry Ohio. But that's going to still leave him 20 electoral votes short. And to bridge that gap, he's got to go to win at least 1 or 2 or 3 of a number of states where Obama carried them by 4.5 to 6 points. And that is really going to be the problem. Any Republican that doesn't carry Ohio and Florida, forget about it. But it's really his ability to carry Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, New Hampshire, Nevada, Colorado, North Carolina, Virginia, that really will determine whether he wins or not.
It is a very difficult path, Dick, as you mentioned, for a Republican to win the White House when you look at the electoral map. I know
from that point of view, Wisconsin is more important than Ohio was, but Walker's out of it.
That's true. And Walker didn't do so well in the primary campaign. Now, let's talk about Donald Trump a little bit. We were discussing this in the break here. He has made a promise not to run as a third-party candidate, but you think that promise could maybe go out the window?
Yeah, I've been trying to read the Trump leaves, not the tea leaves, but the Trump leaves. And I'm wondering why Trump came out in favor of single payer for health care. That's very hard for me to understand. He's been working overtime at positioning himself to the right on social issues so that he could allay the concerns the conservatives have that he's not really one of them. And then he comes in with this position on what is probably the most important challenge to Obama of the whole campaign, Obamacare, and endorses a position to the left of Obama, shared only by Bernie Sanders and he. And I began to wonder about that. It makes no political sense unless you assume that with the drop in the polls, with the increase of Carson and Fiorina, with his seeming inability to put Carson down and behind him, that he might be considering a run as an independent and might be using the primary to articulate some policies that might hurt him in the primary, but might help him in the general.
Is that a dangerous move, though, for him to make after he already made his word on national television?
I sure wouldn't advise it. But otherwise, how do you account for his support of single payer? I mean, you probably have in the Republican primary electorate about 2% that support single payer, about 15% that support Obamacare, and about 85% that don't support either.
Yeah, it's a real head scratcher. But Dick, thanks for the tip. We'll keep our eye on it. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, Dick Morris, author of the best-selling book Power Grab. You can get it by visiting powergrab411.com. Stay tuned to Newsmax TV tonight. Senator John McCain joins Hardline, and Ann Romney will be on the Steve Malzberg Show to talk about her new book, In This Together, My Story. Also, Franklin Graham on Prime, as you see right here.